Just one clarification, the original agenda that was published on Friday had a duplication of items 7 and 8. The revised agenda that was put online this morning does make that change. Item 7 should be approved, the Kramer Trucking and Excavating change order number 6 in the increased amount of $337,614.13, and amend project budget by the project engineer estimate of $240,250.44. And 8 is the partial pay for the same project in the amount of $246,490.01. Just provided that clarification.
Okay, duly noted. Next thing on our agenda is public comments. Anybody that's here to address us on the issues that are not on the agenda, we would entertain those comments at this point.
I would love it if we could take number 16 off the consent agenda.
Number 6.
Discuss later either today or actually it would be great. I'm just finding out about it, so it would be great to be able to take a look at that and look at what's proposed. Number 16 is approved resolution 2024-20 authorizing the submission of grant applications for the Baxter Township Community Trail Grant Project.
Could you state your name and address? I didn't catch.
Sure, John Ring, 10800 Red River Drive, Baxter.
So anybody can remove an item from the consent agenda, and then we'll talk about it after the
Perfect.
passage of the
Yep.
consent
Thank
agenda.
you.
Anybody else? All right, moving forward then. Consent agenda, the following items are considered non-controversial by staff and are recommended to be read and passed in one motion. Any council person, staff, citizen, or meeting attendee can request one or more items be pulled from the consent agenda, and the item will be pulled and addressed immediately after the passage of the consent agenda. Otherwise, the following items will be passed in one motion. Number 1, approve the city council work session minutes from February 6, 2024. Number 2, approve the city council minutes from February 6, 2024. Number 3, approve the payment of bills and finance report. Number 4, approve permit for retail sales of fireworks for Fleet Farm and Menards for the period of May 1st through 24th through April 30th, 25. Number 5, accept the Utilities Commission minutes from February 7th, 2024. Number 6, approve the Anderson Brothers Construction Company of Brainerd LLC partial pay estimate number 7 in the amount of $16,508.64 for the 2023 commercial and residential full-depth reclamation and quiet zone improvements project. Number 7, approve the Kramer Trucking and Excavating Inc. change order number 6 in the increased amount of $337,614.13 and amend the project budget by the project engineer estimated amount of $240,250.44 for the 2023 Cypress Drive and Douglas Fir Drive improvements project. Number 8, approve the Kramer Trucking and Excavating Inc. partial pay estimate number 8 in the amount of $246,490.01 for the 2023 Cypress Drive and Douglas Fir Drive improvement project. Number 9, approve the amendment number 1 for the construction and maintenance cost share agreement between Crow Wing County and the City of Baxter for County Project SAP 018-648-014, City Project SAP 230-020-002, County State 8 Highway 48 Cypress Drive intersection improvements. Number 10, approve the Knife River Corporation North Central pay estimate number 8 in the amount of $2,239.65 and amend the project budget from $2,212,841.26 to $2,376,379.04 for the 2023 NOLA Drive improvements project. Municipal project number 4132. Number 11, adopt resolution 2024-014, approving plans and specification and authorize advertisement for bids contingent on city engineer final review for the 2024 mill and overlay and full depth reclamation improvements project, municipal project number 4424. Number 12, approve the feasibility report for the 2025 Ironman Drive extension improvements services for the Evergreen Drive property improvements, wetland mitigation, and increase in the contract amount from $7,000 to not exceed amount of $7,500. Number 15, accept the 2024 City Hall assessment and study. I'm not sure how we work 16 there, Brad.
Make a motion, or I'll ask to pull number 16.
Gonna pull number 16. Number 17, approve a peddler license for renewal by Anderson. Number 18, adopt resolution 2024-021, declaring cost to be assessed and ordering preparation of proposed assessment for the 2024 South Forest Field Improvement Project, municipal project number 4138.
Staff.
Mayor, please poll.
Gonna pull number 18. Number 19, adopt resolution 2024-022, ordering a hearing on proposed assessment for 2024 South Forest Field Improvements Project, municipal project number 4138.
You pulled out as well.
Only 19 also. Number 20, accept the live February 13th, 2024 planning commission meeting minutes. Number 21, adopt ordinance 2024-002 and 2024-003 and resolution 2024 and 016, amending a PUD to allow a second freestanding sign for property located at 15616 Edgewood Drive. Number 22, adopt ordinance 2024-004, 2024-005, and resolution 2024-018, approving the zoning ordinance text amendment to amend the city's architectural ordinance. Number 23, adopt resolution 2024-017, approving variances to the city's architectural design standards and to the setback requirements for property located at 15244 City Highway 371. 24, adopt resolution 2024-019, approving conditional use permit for forest land conversion to allow tree clearing on property located at the southeast corner of Delwood Drive and Bonnie.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Cross.
Second.
By Tappan. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First bold item.
16, which is resolution 2024-021, declaring, I'm sorry, 020, authorizing the submission of a grant application for the Baxter Township Community Trail Grant Project. This is a resolution that was drafted by staff based on the conversations held at the work session on the 16th of January and February 6th. As council will recall, there was a presentation made by Todd Holman, representing Camp Ripley and the Nature Conservancy, related to a grant opportunity through federal funds to aid in trail development in the north part, or what's known as Veteran State Trail. That subsequent conversation that took place on the 6th, staff provided you with other capital improvement priorities and workload and commitments over the next 3 years based on that conversation. The presentation that was made by Mr. Holman on January 16th laid out a full project from Corpus Vista to the west all the way over the connection to Parish Drive and creating a entrance into Mississippi Overlook Park on the east end, all of which are in the city's comprehensive plan. But based off the conversation on the 6th, the resolution that was drafted is based on option A, which is the eastern portion, which is extending the trail from its current location at Jasperwood, carrying it over into and creating a new entry into Mississippi Overlook Park. And I can provide that as a visual, just to show what that is. Apologize. as I mentioned, the proposal that was presented, or the opportunity that was presented on the 16th of January by Mr. Holman, carried it from Jasperwood all the way to the corporate city line. There is a shared interest with Sylvan Township, who are proposing as part of their participation in this project is to carry the trail through Sylvan Township to the county line. Based on our conversations, or council conversations on February 6th, council was not comfortable with proposing the entire project as was presented by Mr. Holman, and indicated the staff to prep documents related to, again, phase one. Phase one is carrying the trail from Jasperwood heading into the park and extending Parish Road to become the entry into Mississippi Overlook Park. And that's shown in yellow. The current access is on Oakwood. Oakdale. On the north, with an easement down a private property to get to the power line corridor, and then it carries over to down to the Mississippi River. So making this more direct and more accessible, removing that temporary access of the park from the residential area and putting it where it has been long proposed. So we prepared those documents based on the council consideration or discussions. I know there's people here in the audience that want to talk about it in that context, and I know that Mr. Holman is here to answer any questions as it relates to the grant opportunity. So with that, Mayor, if there's not any questions of council, I will cede the podium to those that have interest.
I think it's important you mentioned the different dates that this has been talked about. And, it's been a study that's, or conversations been going on for quite some time, so, but let's hear what you guys.
There was a notification to any of the landowners though.
Yeah.
Please come up with that podium.
Hi, my name is John Ray, again, 1010 Good River Drive. And I'll just be the first to speak. My interests really go back, as you well know, to Red River Drive, which is still a problem. As you recall, September 1st, 22, I gave a letter to each of you, just addressing several concerns. There's still concerns. I really think that it needs to be a priority as it relates to funding before. And this is I don't know the grant that well, but I'm going to assume that, because I met with the consultant that we had, who assured us that there would be some funding, outside funding, that we could even have to build the road into Red River Drive there, kind of in the middle. Well, this is on the eastern side. Let me see if I can go. Oh, nothing there. Okay. So Red River Drive doesn't show up. I have some maps here. I am super unprepared to do this. I'm just finding out that we're doing this. The other thing, I've also just requested from staff to be notified when they're needing, and I can hear the question, what, Mr. Rink, why should we treat you special? Yes, sir, Mr. Cross.
If you scroll down to 2 pages, you'll get an overall view to where I think maybe you can point out what you were looking for there.
He's up higher.
Up
He's
higher.
north.
Right. It still doesn't show the road there.
It doesn't show the
He's
road.
north.
If I can just go. Sir,
It's up there.
It's on
guys, look at this. Okay, so I live down here. I'm not even on the map here yet. There's a current road right now, though, that goes along here, goes up here, across here, and then goes over. Let's see, goes over right here up to me.
Is that your house on the river there that I'm seeing below Baxter?
Yes.
I'm just,
Yeah, that's Red River Drive. And so, as I addressed in my in my letter in 2002, I was going to bring some of that out here, without even referring to it. Some of the problems are just the extra traffic that we have now. Some of that's been taken care of really by neighbors, really, because it's all private property to get to Baxter. If you recall, I remember when the mayor came out and there were just a couple neighbors and Mr. Dottie came out and we were talking about access, and my neighbor's idea was to move the road where the road is currently over to the over west, which would go through property. Baxter owns the entire thing, so they could remedy the entire thing without crossing all the private property right there. So that the residents of Baxter could get back there legally. What right now there's just a cartway, and it's really dangerous. I mean, just this weekend, I almost hit a kid on a little mini bike, and when it's narrow like that, it's windy and you can't see very well. That really needs to be remedied. My understanding is that this calls for the trail to go through, and I've seen those plans of the trail. Currently goes across the pay trail would go over the current roadway 3 times. Currently, I maintain that with my old grader, and it would be just a hazard as well. So I would really like to see it. I think it's really critically important that we address things from private land ownership to just safety concerns on Red River Drive as a priority in funding. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm Dave Barrett. Me and my family own that piece right here. And like what Mr. Ring said, as far as notice goes, the land, me and my mom, who couldn't be here tonight, own the land. And it's this whole chunk, this was all Barrett land at one point, back in the day. And this is the last piece we own from here to here now. And the amount of communication, like there's been no letters saying we're talking about your land. I see that, you see this giant red box here and that's on your agenda, and we didn't have any communication on that. And as far as the rest of the whole project goes, there's a lot going on. Mr. Ring, the amount of people that just go through here and this road that goes around the swamp right here, people are using that road whether they are supposed to or not. And short of putting gates up, I'm not really sure what to do anymore, because I've had people up in here that think everything is public. And, and that's just the way it goes, I guess, but there needs to be something done about the amount of, what is the plan? What type of trail are we talking about? Are we talking a trail? Are we talking, this is just the road? And I mean, what kind of trail are you talking about all the way to, Sylvan Township? I don't really know what more to say about it, but the amount of communication could be better as far as what the planning is and what you guys are thinking. I don't. And you got Mr. Redicky over here, he sees a lot, he gets enough of his own foot traffic too going on his, so I don't know how to define the boundary more of what is private and what is public. So, and then the greater question is, we still deer hunt this, and you still, as a city, allow us to deer hunt this with our shotguns. And what is this gonna change all that? Because we've been deer hunting this for 100 years. You know, my family's lived here. My great-grandpa homesteaded the whole thing back in 1908. And this is the last piece of it, is this stuff. So that is also my question, is you want to maintain the deer herd, which obviously anybody can bow hunt, but I'm here to tell you right now, there is plenty of people with guns in this area. Whether it says bow hunting only or not, I can sit right here and listen to a lot of people shooting all around in here. And there's no policing that, because you talk to the police and they say it's the DNR's problem, and you talk to the DNR and they say it's police's problem. So whose problem is it? You got people coming down Red River Road and then crossing the creek right here, and then they come in here with their guns. So they're trespassing on the road and private land to begin with, and then they just come in here and everybody's trespassing. But it's public, that, you know, nobody knows what's public and what's not public. There's signs and there is literature out there, and anybody these days with Onyx and all the apps you can use to see who owns what, nobody cares. So between the private road down here and then everybody that's already coming through here, you know, last year I was sitting right about here, and it sounded like there was about 15 people with guns shooting at 1 or 2 deer across the field, and it's just a barrage. It sounds like an army going through there, and so there's no policing that. So I can legally do it here, and I'm on my own land, and it says I can be there. But everybody else that's down here, what are they doing? And then everybody that walks down the trail, they don't know that. They don't know that there's people back there. And so how are you gonna do it if you're gonna go from here to here? How are you gonna, what's there to do about it? Is there anything we can do about it? Or is there not? You can change it all to bow only all you want, but it's not gonna change anything. So that's all I have to say. And I have more questions, obviously, about the rest of this, but for now, that's all I have.
Brent, could you speak to the red on that map real quick, before we get to the next
Sure.
one?
Red on the map is showing land that would need to be acquired in order to.
Have they been contacted?
At this point in time, no. Understand that this is a process that has transpired within less than a month. Up until 2 weeks ago, we didn't even know if the council had support, was supportive of submitting a grant application.
Because one of the reds is Mr. Barrett's land, and I asked him if he had been confronted at all as to, is it gonna be acquired? And he said, I hadn't heard anything, so it's kind of the same thing. I heard about this from my neighbor. I own 60 acres, and the predominance of what this is impacting is me. So I find out about it through the paper from my neighbor. I would expect a little bit better communication time. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Trevor Walter, the
Hi,
Public Works
Trevor. How are you? I
Director.
met you before. Good to see you.
We've had many times. And I will say,
Sir, could you state your name for me?
Dean Reiki, 6151 Paris
Dean
Road.
Reiki, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to say for the record, for everybody in here, this is the exact same plan that the city council adopted with the Southwest Baxter study. Nothing has changed in it. You guys were all notified of that. Nothing's changed. All we're doing is going after a grant application that may actually start building it in phases. But I just wanted on the record that the Southwest Baxter study went through a whole public process that you were all
It just
notified
got
when I
sped
talked
up.
to you about
Right,
it.
it got sped up. You said 10 years, this will never happen because you aren't gonna have money. Now I
then the
understand
grant
the money
application
happens. So
comes
now I would expect to have been contacted somewhere along here because I have 60 acres in the city of Baxter, which I say I'm probably one of the, and obviously I'm impacted a lot more. So most of this property that's here is there. The one thing I don't know if you've considered any of this plan is that from Oakwood that comes down where it's existing in the parking area, there's already an easement that already exists on my property, and 10 feet or so is on the church property. So it's gonna cost, so let me ask this before we do this. Is city water potentially involved bringing this in?
The proposed grant would cover putting the pipe in dry. The sewer and water ends at Oakwood right now. We're not proposing to have it extended down to Paris and over there. So instead of ripping out the road if and when the sewer and water was to be extended, we were laying dry pipe into the right of way.
So you're not gonna force any landowners down there, Mr. Denherter or myself down there?
That is not, no, that is not the case.
That's not gonna happen.
That is not our intentions at this
No,
time.
that's not gonna happen.
Effective, because I
That's-
never got the word.
That's not gonna happen, or that's not the plan?
That is not in the grant proposal or in the city's long-range plan, or immediate capital improvement plan.
Will happen someday, yes. Harris Road will have city water and sewer one day.
If this goes through. If this goes through.
Even if this doesn't go through,
Here's what I'm advising the council that's already existing in this, because I think you had mentioned that the only thing that impacts where it's currently at is all the private property that's in there, correct? That's coming from Oakwood?
Yes, I mean,
Okay, so where Paris Road extended does not impact any private property, is that what you're saying?
not saying that
It impacts it just the same. Here's what I'm saying is, right now, on the cul-de-sac coming off of Oakwood, when I purchased all this property, I had easements everywhere. I had easements coming off of Mapleton, coming all the way down. I gave these all away. When we came to closing on the church ground, I gave up all of my easements. Turns out at the end, I find out that there's an easement stuck on my property on the 20 acres north of the power line. So I have I think it's a 66-foot easement, and excuse me, I'm not overly prepared either, because I just found out about this, but I will be prepared in the future. But there's 66 feet that comes down to the north. What I propose that you look at is following that 60-foot easement along my property and in my property, and if you look at it, it comes through there, and there's also an existing power line that comes from Oakwood all the way up to the power line. It's already existing, it's already there. Bring it up from the north to the south, and don't extend Paris through my side, because it's gonna get expensive for my property that sits there. It's impacting the south side. It comes in, I've got pillars in the end of my driveway that are costly. It's gonna be a big cost. As it is, the alternate route, and actually when I got there, it's the same thing. I bought the property from John Sullivan. There are four options of bringing the bypass in, right? So I knew the most likely, I bought the property knowing that the bypass is coming in there. That's fine. You know what it is, I accepted this. This is a little bit different. I believe that there's a much better option to come in off of Oakwood. If you're gonna bring it, you're gonna bring it further than that, come into Oakwood, turn it 90 degrees and go down the power line and then create your parking area. Because what I understand that this grant is for is specifically to get access to this park. Is that what I understand is correct?
the grant opportunity was to do access to the park and the trail all the way, based on the conversations that were had at the city council work session. That was pared down to just be the C-STEM.
Well, unfortunately, we weren't advised of it, so I couldn't be involved in it. But now, obviously, our neighborhood is involved. So I would ask strongly to look at that. I think if you look at the property, look at how it impacts my, does it help a lot of stuff? It's gonna impact, it's gonna change. I've got 2 river lots that are down there that, once you bring that in, they're gonna be below restricted levels. Those lots are basically worthless river lots. It's gonna get expensive to put this in, at least for what you're gonna have to pay me. I propose this other deal with the existing, it already exists, the easement already exists, bring it in, turn it in and go down, and I'm not gonna fight it, but I will fight the other part hard. Thank you.
thank you.
comments addressing just the portion that the council approved to go after the grant on, or has the conversation expanded beyond that?
Well, apologize, can you repeat that?
Okay, that's what I'm just trying to figure out.
The second gentleman
Yep.
is here,
Correct.
and that's in the portion that we're looking at. The first gentleman is up over here, but across this, as it goes.
Yeah, your answer.
I do, thank you.
So, I didn't show on the map, I'm sorry, but can you want to just show on the map where I was talking about from Oakwood, where we come down and then follow that? I didn't bother doing it, but,
So your name is mentioned there 3 times. Do you have 3 separate lots there?
well, I've got probably more than that. I've got 20 acres to the north, I have 20 acres to the north that goes up to Oakwood. So,
I can help you out.
That's the piece right there.
Mr. Reneke owns this piece.
Yep.
And this is the
Correct.
trail corridor that's the trailhead currently where people access the
Correct.
east side of Mississippi Overlook Park.
so that's also where the easement already exists.
Right. And so that's what he's referring to as to where to bring the road instead of extending Paris. He also owns the land on the south side as well, these 2 lots and this lot here.
So there's a house on one of those lots now.
Yeah, his house is here.
Going east
Right.
on the south side.
Yeah. What's that?
I own the other 2 lots on the south side. But you
Yeah,
go
The
east,
two empty lots you own next to Dean Rennick.
Right.
I got a home in mine now.
Yes.
You got a home on the one lot?
Yeah.
Huh?
There's one lot that separates Mr. Den Herder's from
I got
me.
And Mr. Denherter is sitting right next to Mr. Reneke, and he owns land to the east of Mr. Reneke. Yes, and your house is there. Yep, for the record. Yep.
Is Red River, you said you were referencing Red River Road, right? Is that a private drive?
Yes, it is. It
With
is
an easement
until- it
to your
is
property.
for about a month, maybe not even a mile in, but about a mile of it is Baxter's. They own the property, but the proposal is to move it to the west. There's already a corridor, when I was part of the planning, with that, there's already a corridor that's there. The question is on building the road. Sean, the city's just been hesitant to do so.
That private roadway is in here. And option 3 that we threw out, option A, B, C, and D. Option C addresses the road access and the trail that John Ring is talking about. We actually proposed an entire trail grant and access, both an east access and a north access, and the entire trail all the way to Sylvan Township in a grant application. That's what was presented originally to the city council back in January. They have decided to pare it down to only option A at this time, with the future extension of the trail. The trail is the Veteran State Trail.
Is the trail, the entire trail though, is all the way to the county line is included in this?
No.
No, it's not. The trail is only this first segment.
There's A, B, C,
Then
D.
Sylvan Township's gonna do about 3/4 or a mile out of the county line through the property that they acquired and the piece that Cass County owns. That's what's also proposed in this grant application. Then there's a missing link yet in the middle to come in the future. So they did talk about this road access, John. It is not, the council is not putting two and two together exactly where you live and what that was attached to your comments with that Southwest Baxter study. But we did have that as one of the options of this overall grant. The grant applications roughly between all 3 of them is about $10 million of federal grants is what's being proposed. Where you can use one federal grant to match another federal grant, so there's minimal city cost participation in these grants.
What was the rationale then to bypass that, the Red River Drive, with all the issues there?
Well, there's multiple. As Trevor indicated, there is a city share in that context. Of that 10 million, there's about another 3 million what would be city cost of all those options A through D. In that context, we also looked at the capital improvements that are on the schedule for 24, 25, and 26. Road replacements, sewer and water extensions, and things of that nature, at the city's fiscal ability to cover that, and pared that down. And then on top of it, the commitments that we have already in time, resources, and staff, and the limitations that are there on that side. So ultimately, through those conversations, the council pared it down to that option A, which is the far east end of the proposals that were presented.
What's in yellow?
Yeah.
And, yeah, my recommendation would be to, I mean, if you took care of that first, one thing, you got a safety thing. If you have any injuries on that whole trail, you can access it from there rather than all the way on one end. Now, the one negative thing is that you're not gonna have access to the river like you do, and that's what I'm hearing, is that there's importance to that, so.
The purpose of this is to get access to that part.
Right.
That's what I heard today when I met.
That's what I'm understanding now.
Bring this in, so
Right.
that a good accident can be avoided.
And then the other comment that on Dean's is the Veteran State Trail that's being proposed on this segment is a 10-foot wide bituminous trail, non-motorized. The motorized portion is figured to go a different route through Baxter, but this segment is non-motorized segment overall is what's proposed in that Southwest Baxter study, not a motorized trail in this segment. That could change, I'll just warn you, things change down the road. Right now, that's what it is. And it has to come from the Paul Bunyan Trail. So to answer Dean's question of why this would be proposed to be turned back to you and the church property, that easement would be gone, because the Veterans Trail is not gonna go up Jasperwood Drive, down Oakdale, and then down that private easement around. It needs to go straight through. Therefore, we were proposing to run the access to the park so it would look the same as what Jasperwood Drive is, where the trail is on the north side of the power poles, the roadway's on the south side. And I can tell you that it doesn't even touch your pylon lights at the end of your driveway, because that cul-de-sac is offset to the south. So if you extend the road center line right on through, it doesn't touch your driveway at all. In fact, it lengthens your driveway. Your pylons won't be at the end of your driveway anymore. So the road is a little bit to the north. The edge of the road bed will be to the north where the cul-de-sac is today.
Won't you need to clear beyond the road might be there, but aren't you also gonna have easement on the side of that as well?
North, everything would be on north side of your driveway,
So,
but
but
south of the power line.
Usually when you run a road, you don't have trees and Norway trees like I have and everything right along the edge. You're gonna go back however far beyond the road, aren't you? The road's gonna run existing the way it runs, Paris Road would run there, and then you're gonna have a ditch or an area along the
Correct.
side of that, and you're gonna say that's not gonna affect those.
The road right away will be at whatever that distance is. It hasn't been determined on.
Right, well, I'd have to see. I think that totally makes sense in terms of to run the trail up, I don't think it makes any sense. Because on the north side of that, of the power line, it really doesn't impact anybody. The south side does. Now all of a sudden, my shed, I have a shed that's there, pretty soon it's running right through basically right through my property.
And with this grant application, that streets, water, and sewer would be 100% paid for, which abuts all three of your properties, all four.
The dry pipe.
It's a dry pipe.
I'm not saying that it couldn't increase.
And it makes your two lots that are not buildable if the water and sewer was live, it'd make both of those lots buildable on the
Even
river.
on the river they would? The
Yeah.
only trouble, the river lots are pretty much worthless because you have to be 150 feet back from the bluff anyway.
Yeah. But
Is that the
there's a
whole-
lot of discussion, that's a lot of what if, because here's the other kicker. What if the grant doesn't even go? We put in for this grant, and we've done all this detailed discussion with all of you, and then it doesn't even happen. So that's why I was waiting until what the city council decided to do tonight. And then I was gonna start contacting everybody on that east end and start saying, hey, we put in for this grant application, this is where we're at. So I was not prepared tonight to sit and address the details, but I was planning on contacting you after,
I appreciate it.
if the city council approved the grant application. We're still have to vote on whether they're gonna take and even put the grant application in.
So I think it makes total, I don't know if I made that clear in terms of what I felt. I totally think on the north side of that, to extend that bike trail or whatever the Paul Bunyan Trail is, to extend that, if you extend it straight on the north side of that, it really doesn't impact anybody because it's just a bike trail. And then it will connect in with the road that comes back off of Oakwood, that comes in there, and now it's all joined in your hunky-dory. I'm just saying that it would affect, it causes a lot less effect to, I'm the only one that's really directly affected by this. I'm the only landowner, I'm the only guy that has a house down there. You know, when we built the bypass, I got cut off from all the rest of the development. You know, I built that road that came into my house, and if I'd have known that, I'd built it 100 yards to the north instead of putting it there if I thought I was gonna lose some of that property eventually. You know, John and I together built it, we put it in, he built it, I paid for it, so, anyway, I'm good.
And like I say, this has not changed from that Southwest Baxter study that the city council adopted as plans, and we did. I will say, John, that I said it probably 10 years or more out because of funding. And then this federal grant opportunity comes up, kind of a once-in-a-lifetime type chance.
You and I talked about moving my property lines where my house is and talking, moving to the other side, to the north side, and said,
Correct.
you know, the long-range plan, yes, so you did make that clear, and I appreciate that, I do understand that. And you said, if it goes with the city, we'll never be able to afford it, so don't worry about it. So, obviously, things change, so.
But you gotta, you know, this project's, you know, around 4 million. And if it gets to be almost 100% paid for by federal funds, that's quite an opportunity to open up a 880 acre park facility of public land in the city limits of Baxter. I mean, that's where the city council's struggling. I mean, it's a chance of a lifetime to open up a beautiful area to the public.
It is beautiful. The only thing I would say, according to what Dane said, and I didn't allude to any part of that, is I'm also down there, and the riffraff and the stuff that I deal with down there. And my concern when I talked to Josh today was, who's gonna police this? I have police on the end of my driveway taking naps. I had a post office truck sitting today. She gets out and it has a heater on the end. They're tucked in. It's private. There's nothing going down there. We have continual stuff that's going down there. So I don't know how it's gonna take some serious policing by the Baxter Police to watch this, because it's gonna be ugly.
I mean, once you get past Island Lake, I mean, you can't get back there unless you're on the Highland. You're not getting a vehicle down there unless you're gonna, and those hills are pretty wicked back there. And I mean, you're not gonna police, you're not gonna be able to get there, whether someone gets hurt or someone's doing something wrong. Getting back there to even do anything about it is, I mean, what is the overall plan with the 880 acres, just besides to have it be public?
That's in that Southwest Baxter study that we could sure get you a copy of. It's a lot of detail to talk about. It's not that I'm trying to avoid you, but we're in the middle of a council meeting.
Sure.
I mean, the council, I think, is being very patient. talking about
Exactly, and I
detailed
think
design.
we made, as far as I'm concerned, I've made my concerns, and let's move on, you got other things going, so let's go.
Well,
No, you go ahead.
so it sounds like at least the two, maybe the three of you are the most affected as property owners, is that accurate?
Right.
Ring, Bear, and what, Renicky?
Reneke, yeah.
Okay.
And
Or not Ring, I'm sorry.
This one.
Not the other, right?
Dan heard it.
Okay, Denver. I don't mind talking about the details. Slow down the meeting. Sorry, Mayor. I just would like to know, like, I mean, are you for, against, or indifferent, the three of you?
For what?
No, not,
Sorry.
we're Red River Road, we're not talking about that. I'm just talking about, see the yellow, what's being proposed right now, the yellow, right there coming down to the, over the park, right? That's what we're voting on today. Correct?
The purple trail.
With the purple, okay, yeah, purple, there we go, there we go.
The purple one's already there.
Just in fairness,
Purple's a bike trail.
in fairness to the council, self-defense, call it whatever you want. When we looked at the opportunities of this grant, tell me if 10 million is a lot of money, but there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that. And so what we did is we looked at what is the first thing that we would really like to see done on this whole thing. And so that's what we pared it down to that first section. And like Trevor's talking, 4 million. If we get, potential bathrooms and all the things that could happen down there to improve that and access to it and not have to pay for it, you and me, we all pay for it, don't get me wrong. But to have a grant to do that for us, because eventually we would want to be doing those things, and with no grant, we'd be doing it ourselves. And so I think that's how we looked at it. Maybe it needs tweaking, I'm not gonna deny that, but the bottom line is that's what it was rooted in. It was rooted in, look, this is an opportunity that just fell in our lap, so to speak. And we should look at this and see how we can, but we weren't ready to look at a 10 million scenario either. And so that, anyway, enough said, but that's how it got broken down to that first part there.
And I think too, if I could just add, I certainly understand what all of you are saying, but you look at the general public, and if they were to hear that, oh, city council voted no, have an opportunity to get free money, understand it's never free, but there's obviously two sides to the situation, and it never really aligns perfectly when we have an opportunity like this, and do we have the capacity to manage it? So.
But there's no current need for sewage and water in that section. None. I'm not interested in city water or sewage at all.
Can I just say, I understand the funding, just like how the park came in. I had a lot to do with that park going in. I was involved with the church and everything, getting all that put in, and that was an opportunity as well.
Exactly.
That's where the funding came in. It's a beautiful piece of property. It is. It's phenomenal. It's nice, like it's, because it's so beautiful. What I'm proposing is, I don't think that a different option has been looked at. I think the option that I'm presenting, I presented to Josh today, and he thought it was very, I'm not gonna speak for him, but it makes a lot of sense to come in terms of the cost. Obviously, that money's not coming out of the city council, it's coming out of the federal government to pay for it. But the piece that I'm getting along there in terms of the money that I would get from this, which I don't want the money, I'd rather have the access coming from a different direction. I don't think it's gonna impact, I don't think it's gonna change any part of this to come from where it exists, just as I said, come down on the easement, access it, turn and go down the power line. I'm just asking to really consider that as an option. And I don't think it's been presented that way. And I'm not sure that everybody knew there was already an easement existing there. So that's why I'm here. That's what I'm telling you. I think this is a very good option to come in as opposed to what you're proposing here as the only option.
I can tell you, answer two of those questions, is the easement is clearly shown in the Southwest Baxter study. And we did look at different ways of bringing road access in that study, besides the trail access. And because of that study and all of the people involved in it, all the informational meetings and all the time spent on it, it was the best to bring in the general public down Jasperwood Drive and not through a residential neighborhood. There is, Oakdale, if it was fully developed, has a house every 100 to 125 feet. You don't want your public access. Jasperwood has no driveway accesses until you get south of Oakdale, and that's what, 3, 4 properties only? And then Paris Road really only has from Jasperwood to the east, the 4 bends. Undeveloped lot is developed lot, your developed lot, and then the neighbor right at the intersection. So
I don't think
we
there's
looked
any-
at where do you bring in general public to a big public facility such as this? Because it's more than just, it gets to be more of a regional system when you open this up, which has been the city's concern of the 880 acres, if you look at the study, is should there be outtake partners involved in that whole 880 acres? So we looked at that access during that study, and we looked at the trail alignments during that study, and we looked at your easement during that study. City council has seen all that in that study.
So how many houses do you think are impacted off Oakwood? I can tell you
I
how many.
believe that there, if it was totally built out, there's over a dozen.
How many are there right now?
There's 9 on the south side, more on the north.
4?
On the north side of Oakdale Road?
He's saying what there is for existing, yes, there's only 4 houses existing today.
Oh, right.
But
So-
total
so
build
what you
out,
said- What you said is,
Total build out.
there's less on my stuff than there is on there. You don't know that I'm not gonna develop that 20 acres on the north side and have the same exact thing going in there. You don't know that. What I'm saying is right now.
which is exactly why we don't
there-
want to take and put a road through.
There's 4 and 4. Same sort of impact, right now.
You look at the total build out when it's finished.
You're not gonna sell those lots for $38,000.
Sir, your concern is the project a concern, or is the land use and how it's being managed and enforced and private property versus public property?
All of the above, really.
Your-
I mean, you know, I've been around here, I've lived in Baxter my whole life, that's been my family's land forever. You know, that used to be nothing, that used to be basically our trail back to the river. They used to be, all those roads that go through there, and that's why, you know, all those old roads have been there for 100 years. And that's why they're still there. But the rest of the trail, and then more just notification, you know, I didn't know there was a workshop meeting. You know, granted it may have went to my mom's house or whatever, but at the same time, she reads her mail, so it's not like, but we didn't know, you know, and I was at the meeting, I don't know if that was last year or the year before, it was at the Arboretum, and they were talking about putting a trail from Mapleton Road straight through, and I was there for that meeting, and obviously that's not a thing anymore, but I'm telling you, the outside traffic is bad enough as it is right now, and to add to it, I just wanna know how we're gonna go about keeping people where they need to be and not be where they can't be. You know, and that goes clear over to Red River Drive, that goes all the way down there. I mean, you have 880 acres, and that's a lot of turf to try to watch or do something with, you know. Whether it's a four-wheeler, I've sat in my,
Does the police department have a four-wheeler quad? No, okay.
I've sat in my bow stand, which isn't too far off the High Line, you know, it's on our property, and I can see the High Line from my bow stand. And the one night I'm sitting there, and there's 4 or 5 kids jumping the wood chip piles on their four-wheelers while I'm deer hunting. I called the police, and the lady said someone would get back to me, and no one ever got back to me. And they're not gonna, so, I mean, what, are you gonna police the four-wheelers? Cause that would be on the no motorized vehicles part, you know, whether the rest of it is whatever, but, you know, there's a lot going on back there that is beyond what we're talking about here. It's great for the public, it's great for the people that are gonna use it the right way, but there's a ton of people using it the wrong way. And that's all there is to it, and it's gonna, you know, I don't know if it can get better or if it's just gonna get worse. Whether it's deer hunting or whether it's jumping the wood chip piles with their four-wheelers or whether, you know, all of it. The water and sewer really doesn't affect me at my certain spot right now, but the whole rest of it is it's just gonna add to it, you know, people walk wherever they want. They've come out, they've walked all the way back out my aunt and uncle's driveway, which is north of our property, and they walk right out before they realize they're somewhere they probably shouldn't be, even though there's 18 no trespassing signs and private property signs. And, you know, it doesn't matter. I got trail cameras out, I get pictures of people walking around all the time. All the time. So short of me putting gates up and, you know, making it look like that, not that you can't walk around a gate, but I don't know if I need to make it more obvious on my end, or if it's even gonna matter.
I was just gonna note for the record, the meeting that he's talked about when he first started, what at the Arboretum was the kickoff meeting for Southwest Baxter study. So at that time, those people were informed of the whole, you know, process and going forward. And
Yes, I was informed of that one, and I was there, and we talked about other things that are.
And that's what this is. This is the Southwest Baxter study. That's what come out of it. It's
Sure.
all that stuff and that whole process.
I remember at that meeting talking about the trail coming from Mapleton Road, and it was gonna run the property line between my aunt's property and Mr. Runnigan's property, and then my property, and it was gonna be a straight shot from Mapleton Road all the way back there. And that's all I remember talking about, and I don't remember getting a follow-up notification that we're gonna talk, let's change this and we're gonna do this now. And now we're here, and this is fine and whatever, but like, you know, Dean called me today, I had no idea about this either, and, you know, I'm a little unprepared too, but it's, yeah.
The only reason I called them is because I see the things in red where they're prospectively buying these chunks of property, and I said, gosh, have you heard about this potentially buying the property? Because I'd be interested in buying the Good Samaritan property if I knew it was for sale. But, you know, it impacts me in terms of privacy as opposed to, I would assume if you buy that, that's gonna turn into park. You're gonna change that into park, I would guess. Is that what the plan is?
That's what the Southwest Baxter study shows, yes.
Okay. But we don't have any clue as to what the value of that would be.
No
The cost.
There's been no appraisals done.
All right, Mrs. Regas.
I just had a question, I'm Linda Ring, I'm married to John. I just had a question on the funding, so do you apply for, you're applying for the whole 10 million? I mean, that's what you're asking for approval for?
No, just for the approximate $4 million for the,
It's just for this. So can you apply for it without having this set in stone yet? Can you say, we want the 4 million, but we don't quite have a plan that we're gonna do for sure?
yeah, I mean, it's a concept at this point in time. Again, the timeline is very quick. Mr. Holman from the Nature Conservancy and representing Camp Ripley as well, with the Rugby Friends, is here. He made the presentation on the 16th. The application deadline, I believe, is middle of March.
Or April 1.
April 1. So in that context, so there's engineering that needs to be done, there needs to be surveying, there needs to be appraisals done, all that stuff still would need to be done after we would receive a notice of award, if we were to receive that.
But, Selena, let me correct if I'm hearing you right. You said, can the 4 million be moved anywhere out in this 880 acres?
No, I just mean, can you go ahead and approve? Yes, let's apply for it by all means. We don't wanna miss that deadline if you're able to apply for it without having a definite, here's our plan.
Because you do, in the application, you show the concept. This concept is what's laid out, and we put a cost estimate together for this concept in order to apply for the grant. So if we got the grant, that's what we'd have to try to build with them funds.
Right. they
It's
say, yes, this is
specific.
gonna be it.
Yes.
Right, it is more specific.
Not exactly how it's laid out, I mean, this is a concept. When you get into the details, do you shift the road, do you shift the trail? Yeah.
Can it, just to clarify, just for the record, if this was, you know, what's on the screen here is what's put into the grant, I guess what I would clarify is, no, we wouldn't take that money and then change our mind and do Red River Road.
Right,
That's not how-
no, I
We wouldn't want to do that, no.
She's not-
Just want to be
Just
clear.
in general,
Yeah.
you apply, and this is.
Again, this is federal funds and things of that nature that Mr. Holman would be more prepared to answer in regards to the flexibility. Obviously, we're presenting a concept in that context. Based on previous experience, I know there's some flexibility in the context of things that allow it to be altered here and there, but in the context of the scope, we're really focusing on this eastern.
And then did I hear, is there the potential for 6 more million somewhere, or no, you're saying if you wanted to do the whole thing, it would be 10 million above? Did I?
Right now, the grant potential is up to $10 million in projects in Baxter and Sylvan Township.
Mr. Holman, would you please come up and explain the grants?
Your Honor, Council, good to be back and good to see some of you. It's been multiple hats that we've seen together over the years. And now tonight, I am representing the Camp Berkeley Sentinel Landscape Partnership. I coordinate that partnership and I work for the Nature Conservancy. So you hear all of that just to help understand who I am and what I'm representing. What the Sentinel Landscape Partnership, Camp Berkeley Sentinel Landscape, is not Camp Berkeley, but it's the partnership. And what we do is try to execute or bring capacity to local governments, counties, townships, cities. And in this case, after kind of tracking and watching the Southwest Baxter plan process, this is what the city said is their plan or their approved plan moving forward. So we brought forward this opportunity for federal matching grants. It's really unique because usually federal grants require a non-federal match. And so a one-to-one match is a Herculean task for any local unit of government to try to come up with the one to match that federal piece. In the Sentinel landscape, special federal legislation says that you can leverage federal grant against federal grant to get your one-to-one, and that's what we're doing here, or proposing here. And so there are actually 3 grant sources. It's more detailed than probably anybody wants to know, but there would be 3 grants written. One is to outdoor recreation, one is land and water conservation fund, and one is to the readiness environmental protection integration challenge. So there are 3 pots of money. Different due dates. The first one is due April 1, and that's what caused all of this conversation and kind of a timing for when and how you bring it to the council. But it all started with you all in the Southwest Baxter plan. Once that was done, it opened the door for those of us that are trying to help, perceived help, local governments exercise their goal. And in this case, there are actually 3 local governments that are all looking in the same direction. Baxter's Southwest Baxter Plan, Master Plan, Sylvan Township's resolution and master plan to connect to this Baxter property. And then Cass County owns a 40 in between, and they're fine with that connectivity from Sylvan Township to the city of Baxter. So all the stars in governments are kind of aligning in the same direction. And that just seemed like the opportunity for this type of grant. And we don't know if these same federal funds will be available next year or the next year. But to answer your question, Ms. Melinda, was that a partnership is not one and done. It's not one off. And so this is phase 1, the way I see it. It's what the city had determined they had capacity to start. And then if this is successful, phase 2 would be option B and C, and whatever the city determines. I don't determine that. I come here asking, are you interested? And then the city council has to determine that. So I would just answer the council and answer the public. We're here for the long haul, phase 1, 2, and 3, whatever it takes to make all of these pieces happen. I hope that would be the goal of the city. That's what the city's plan says, and your adjacent governments would say, and so forth. So
to the extent I can be helpful, the partnership can be helpful, that's where we stand and always will be. Here, we actually did the LCCMR project together to acquire potlatch lands through that in partnership. Same kind of a situation where we work together with the city staff and the city and others to kind of develop that success. So anyway, I don't know if that answered all of your questions, but it creates a longer timeline. It's going to take a while, but in the scheme of government time, it's not bad. We'll see how it goes. Thank you. Any other questions of me, council, or?
Okay. Get back to number 16 here. What are your wishes, council?
Is there further discussion after this, or do you vote on it and then go from there?
Well, what we're doing here is authorize the submission of the grant. Can things be adjusted in that?
Again, in that context, we're submitting a grant opportunity. The
Right.
details are still need to be worked out through surveys, things of that nature, conversations with homeowners.
Right.
Once we have received, there'll be conversations between now and then, but once we receive word if we're funded or not, then obviously there is additional work that needs to be done from a staff level and consulting level to get to a point of moving the project forward.
So the first priority is to make the deadline, to make the application.
Right.
We may not get it, we might have all wasted each other's time here. If we get it, then it sounds like there's still some time to talk about fine-tuning of your, if I'm hearing that right.
Just so it's clear, you can't spend any grant money until if and when the grant gets awarded. We don't have consultant fees to go through concepts and figure out exact alignments and stuff until if and when the grant would get awarded.
Trevor, quick question for you. Of all the neighborhoods that we're looking at getting hooked up to sewer and water, like 5 left, right, or something like that.
Yep, existing neighborhoods, yep.
How high does these gentlemen's homes rank in your list of how?
It's not ranked in there right now.
I don't.
No, it's not in, right now, all that's proposed in the next 10 years is an FDR.
Yep, okay. Thanks.
Thanks for answering.
All right. Pardon me?
I said, thanks for answering the question.
So, I'm looking for a motion to approve or deny number 16.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Liscio,
Second.
second by Jeffrey. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. What was the next item?
Can I make a council comment? I don't think this goes on here. Okay, because I know you're still handing out paperwork. You bring up some really good points, and I think it's something we should maybe put on a work session, is to talk about. I don't think we've had a sit down with the police department and the council in a work session for, at least since I've been here. It might be a good time to do that and talk about not just this specific issue, but Baxter Police and as well as this issue specifically. Hunting, shotgun hunting, land use, private property, especially in that area.
Okay, go ahead.
Trevor Walter, Public Works Director for the city.
First of all, thanks for being here, and thanks for your input and your comments. That's some thought-provoking stuff, and so I appreciate you taking your time to be here tonight. It is your city too, so thank you.
Trevor Walter, Public Works Director for the city. I pulled item number 18. Nice to meet you. We're asking the city council to change the resolution, dollar amounts, both total project cost and city costs on the project. Project engineer Scott Edlin is here to explain why we brought it up in the 11th hour, but we are biggest reason is because we're still working with landowners down there. The big one was CTC. Scott will go into more details here and explain why we're proposing a different resolution.
Yeah, so, yeah, literally this is following up a meeting we had this morning with CTC. So, we're requesting that we increase the project budget by $64,600. It has to do with allocating costs related to the development discussions and actions that we've had to date, and our plan related to this proposed CTC development north of the Forest View Drive and Maryland Road intersection. This could have got to a full phase one of the development, but it is not moving to that point at this time. It is moving forward to being final platted though, so there are some right-of-way corridors that are proposed with that initial plat that are of value and interest to the city with the upcoming South Forest View project from a staging standpoint, like what happened with the North Forest View project. So a good share of the increased costs are for clearing and grubbing these 100-foot wide proposed corridors that will become city property, assuming they do what they're saying and final plat this in March, April. So we have, what, $44,600 for clearing and grubbing, and then there are some engineering costs both associated with that activity as well as costs related to sewer and water extension to that property. And one last thing, the reason why we want to do that is to help preserve the roads that we just recently built in the North Forest View area with construction activity, hauling material in and out. If they don't have a closer staging area, if you will, they need staging areas for reclaimed materials, so we grind up the road and stockpile that material and reuse it. There's topsoil stripping that they're gonna do and on-site screening that they're planning to do, and then there's some deeper excavations out there with sand that they're gonna need to temporarily store in certain places, so it seemed like a high value proposition for the city to allow something like that.
So, the outline here with the outlines A, B, C, D, and then block 1 and 2, that's currently undeveloped and one big
Correct.
lot. Correct?
Yep.
And that's,
Actually three lots,
Okay.
there's three already.
but it's just, they're just big lots, they're not platted. Their intent is to plat this.
The one outlot is platted, that was platted by Potlatch on the very east side, and that outlot would be, part of it would be replatted with this.
Is that the block 2 or block 3 and then outlot D?
Yep.
So the areas that I'm talking about clearing and grubbing that we didn't figure out are the yellow highlighted areas in the back. And then the red dots those are lots that would be in that first final plat that would be.
We would be assessing the
Yeah,
red
they're getting
dots.
assessed.
That's
the
what,
normal rate, yeah,
that's
the
what-
sewer and water extending.
that's what's currently in the feasibility study being proposed, is to assess 10 lots.
My only question is, if I were the developer coming in and putting in a proposed subdivision, I would be responsible for clearing and grubbing of my street, and I'd be responsible to put in the street and the utilities, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So why are we adding clearing and grubbing to our city project from a private developer?
Is it worth $40,000 to the city inches to the Forest View Drive that was built in 2020. What will be that many truck traffic? What damage will it do, and will it save those residents to the north on a future mill and overlay assessment instead of 20 years,
What you're
the
saying
last
is
30 years?
we should have built South Forest View first, and then the North Forest View, so we took
From a road standpoint, yes, but from a utility standpoint, we couldn't build it, and we would have built it backwards, because everything flows to the north for sewer. We had this whole discussion on the North Forest View. In fact, what I pushed is, I said, let's do it all as one project, but it was 20 million. It was too big for the city to tackle all as one. But the right thing would have been done in 2019 is to do the entire project all the way to the river, so that you're not going back over these roads. This opportunity come up in the 11th hour with them platting that road right away. We have the rights to go in and clear and grub it and use it for stockpiling on this project, which wasn't there 2 weeks ago when we did the project. We would have known this, I would have put it right in an addendum right from the start. We did put in that they can use that future trail connection from Maryland to the north, but that doesn't give them enough room. That's probably just enough room for all the materials. If you recall, on the North Forest View project, they took and used Jeff Sell's property. They used about 15 acres on his property, and then they used all of that future Hengel's property on that Camwood trail extension between Scenic River and Forest View. That's where they had all their materials, was on that future cul-de-sac to the south and that future road that wasn't built. But we put the water and sewer across Hengel's property, and then all of the stockpiling of the topsoil and all of the millings and everything was over on Jeff Sell's property. So they used many acres, and we were concerned with that when we were bidding, of where are they gonna try to stockpile, because we did not call out that they couldn't use Forest View Drive as a haul road for this project. So I think it's worth the benefits to the city of Baxter to clear and grub that future road right away. And I can't say how it will be paid for yet, except to put it as total project costs and city costs, because we haven't even signed a contract with the contractor. So they don't even know that this is an option. There may be some cost savings with the contractor in negotiating the contract too.
So you don't
Just
know
open bids.
So you don't know what they're planning or where they're planning on stockpiling?
We don't know anything.
So there should, they had to have thought about that when they placed their bid though, right?
I'm assuming because it's the same, the low bidder is the same contractor that did North Forest View. I'm also assuming that they've probably talked to Jeff Sell because they used his property the last time. So I'm assuming they're gonna haul all of the topsoil and all of the millings up Forest View across 48 and then haul it all back in. And what I was gonna do at the pre-con meeting is say, no, you're not. We gotta figure out a different plan. But I didn't know where. There's no big open areas down there. This is 4 acres. This is a lot of open land.
Yeah, but you said they used 15 acres on South property.
Yeah, but they also crushed. Remember they brought in all that concrete? Because they had all the concrete from Pequot Lakes project. They brought in all that concrete, crushed all the concrete with the bituminous. So they had to do a crushing operation. Here we're talking about doing a FDR, then picking it up and stockpiling and putting it back on once the water and sewer is done and the road is graded. So we're not gonna, we did not propose, now the contractor can propose different methods at the pre-con meeting. I don't know what they're proposing on this job because we haven't even signed a contract with them. So, but right now it's big as FDR, pick it up, stockpile it somewhere, put it back on when the water and sewer is done. And it's in phases down there. So you don't need as much acreage in order to stockpile the millings. You will need the acreage still to top, to take and stockpile all the topsoil and
So is
and
this,
then take and, screen it all.
so if we're clearing and grubbing the roadways.
Just the road right away.
The rest of the lots are treated, right?
Yep.
Are you just proposing they use the roadways for stockpiling?
Yep.
So the adjustments from the previous resolutions, there's no change in the assessment amounts, the city cost, and then the total project cost. Is what the adjustments are. I'd just point out too that the total costs with the adjustment, we're still like 600,000 under the feasibility report total project estimate.
So what's the additional engineering fee of $20,000?
Well, some of it's facilitating the clearing and grubbing operations. It's also for some of the planning work related to making sure the sewers were deep enough and the alignments were correct for getting the sewer to the development.
For this
As well as some, there was some early estimating that was done with that as well.
We had to make sure to put the lift station in the right depths for the final build out of the future properties, such as this piece and the piece we bought from Potlatch.
Because it goes even further north.
And when we put this together, we were working with CTC to do a change order where they would pay the city in full for Maryland Extension, Wasabi Road Extension, and Fiber Drive Extension.
And where are we at on that?
They don't wanna do it because the numbers don't work. We took the bid prices, got them to them on Friday, we met today, and the numbers don't work. So they don't wanna do that anymore, but they will plat all of the road right away, they'll plat 4 outlots, and they'll plat 10 developable lots in order to get, so they can sell the ones that are being assessed. And that was just decided at noon today, we met it from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock today. That's why we're here right now, taking and amending the resolution.
Okay, well, it hurts a little bit more now. So, not only I can see where the clearing and grubbing would help us out on our project, but now we have an additional $20,000 of engineering to do the clearing and grubbing.
No, we already.
Yes, just a minute, I'm not done. Because I just got told it was for clearing and grubbing and for engineering services to make sure that the sewer and water was deep enough for this subdivision.
Just so
Now, the city shouldn't be handling the cost for that. It should be up to the developer. This is a private development. We're not, this isn't a city public project. This development you're proposing.
when we lay out a sanitary sewer lift station, we have to lay it out for the entire area, both developed and undeveloped.
Okay, then why
We
wasn't
don't
it
have
done
no
with the
choice
first-
on that.
Then why wasn't it done with the first part, or with this to start with?
It was done with this, that's what we're saying, we already spent the money, we were hoping to recoup it by charging it back to CTC on building Maryland Road, Wasabi Road, and Fiber Drive. So that the city wouldn't have to pay for it, but that's not a choice anymore.
It's listed as an additional engineering. So, you're saying we've already done it.
We've done everything except the clearing and grubbing. Just like we would do for any other project in the city of Baxter.
Okay. Well, if we would have done it for any other project in the city, Why wasn't it already in their engineering numbers? Why is it getting broke out special? Is anybody else following this track?
I appreciate your insight with this because it wouldn't have been apparent to me.
If it's our standard policy to look at the entire area that we're doing water and sewer for, then it would have been done as part of the overall South Forest View project.
Correct.
So my question still is, why is it now showing up as an additional engineering fee?
Because it was not in the change order that's coming on the engineering amendment. That's already in these overall numbers. You see, we don't have the contract amendment for the current services, and we don't have the construction services contract with SEH for the project yet. That's coming to utilities and city council next month. So any overruns to date during design is in that contract amendment, and this is one of them. Because you also got to remember that there was 2 lift stations versus 1, and then the water main crossing.
That's separate
Hey,
from
those are explainable.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is our procedure is look at the entire neighborhood to make
Correct.
sure every potential lot, whether it's platted or not, can hook up to the sewer.
Correct. So what he's coming with is an engineering amendment for this, because the scope of services have changed on certain things, and I don't know, you gotta explain it, I guess.
Yeah, it's a combination of planning for the development, like you're saying, but also for the clearing and grubbing that's.
Okay, I understand the clearing and grubbing.
Yep.
I understand that.
planning development of just this proposed portion.
What I believe he's saying is why it wasn't in your original design construction contract for these services. The problem is your contract to date, you're over budget on your entire contract. You're asking for a contract amendment, which was in the last update that's
Right.
the Utilities Commission.
Right, it's something we've been saying. But yeah, this involves going above and beyond what we would normally do, so it is doing some engineering in this development with different scenarios and extending things in different ways, looking at the best way to serve it with sewer. So it's,
Is that entire 20,000 for this proposed treating grubbing then?
no, it's both of those, so there's 2 different elements. There's engineering and planning related to the development, and there's engineering and construction related specifically to clearing and grubbing. So I'd say about half of that is
it half?
clearing
half?
and grubbing. I'd say about half's clearing and grubbing related specifically, the other is planning.
Well,
There's been a lot of coordination and meetings with the developer.
Okay,
Whether-
$10,000 is a drop in the bucket in an $8 million project. But if we keep getting a drop in the bucket every time we have a meeting, it starts to add up.
I agree, we've been trying to be as transparent as possible on this. We can pull up the monthly updates, because
So have we done any other engineering amendments, contract amendments yet?
no,
This will be the first one.
yep.
And right now, the only thing that was missing in this resolution was this 20,000. The other additional engineering fees that are estimated already to be coming in a contract amendment is in that dollar amount, plus all of the construction, administration, and observation and staking services are in that overall project cost. So we have to estimate all that stuff, because you can't change this number once you do the assessment. But it's also even bigger than that, Mark, because it wasn't just these 3 pieces.
clearing and grubbing consists of a Fletcher change order amount of 20,000.
Correct. 4 acres at $5,000 an acre.
And then there's a change order for additional tree grubbing for 24,600.
That's what R.L. Larson bid for grubbing per acre, $6,000. That was the low bidder. on
And what's that for?
Grubbing.
This same area?
Yeah,
Or-
the
or
four
Clearing
acres.
is cutting the trees down, grubbing is taking the stumps out.
And getting rid of them, we got all of them out.
We
More
need-
grinding.
So to clear this, it's gonna cost $54,000
To clear and grub is
Right.
44,000
to use it for stockpile.
for 44,000.
Well, plus 10,000 in engineering fees, it's 54,000.
And of that $10,000 in engineering fees, most of that hasn't been spent yet because they haven't went out there and staked it, haven't administered the contract with Fletcher, and haven't administered the contract with R.L. Larson. So that hasn't been spent to date.
Okay, but we're gonna spend that, we're gonna assess that.
No assessment. It's 100% city cost because the assessments are fixed. There's no increase in assessments.
So all of us are gonna pay for that in order to create a stockpile location so that we don't tear up the street.
So we do minimal damage to that street. There's still a lot of semi-loads of stuff that has to come in. But what I'm hoping to do is maybe sneak them down Land of Lakes and come in the north end of that future trail, that fuchsia Land of Lakes. So we don't go through that entire neighborhood. It's a lot of semi
But the
trucks.
problem is, they've already bid it, and they already have a plan of how they're gonna do it. And anything we do to say, we don't want you to do this, we want you to do Plan B is gonna cost us another change order.
Or maybe not.
Maybe not.
We can ask though, Mark.
Sure.
I guess the urgency with this, I mean, it's obviously the council's decision, but we need to get the clearing done if we're gonna do it before the end of March, so.
And we have to have the assessment roll dollar amounts correct, because they need to go out either Thursday or Friday this week.
But this isn't a part of the assessment rolls, right?
It's a city cost, it changes the city cost portion of the project.
And the total project cost.
But it doesn't change the
It
individual
changes
assessment.
individual assessments, but in that notice, it says what the total project cost is, what the assessments are, and what the city cost is. We want,
Again, that's a snapshot in time.
it is.
Yeah.
It could change at the assessment hearing too.
And throughout the length of the project.
Well, I'm hoping we did a lot better QC this year than ever before, so. Hoping it's not like last year.
Well, I just don't want to get started having an engineering fee amendment every month. Because we've had that in the past.
Understood.
Right now, all you're proposing is to bring in one fee amendment, which will cover design services through the bidding and then the construction observation. It's all gonna
Right,
be,
it's planned to be in March.
it's all gonna be one,
Which is
which was always planned.
this one here, or is there a different one?
Oh, it's a big amount.
So it's included in your project estimate.
It's
We're under contract for like 561,000 right now.
Okay, are we ready for a motion on that?
I
else?
Those were the only three that were pulled.
I'm sorry?
Those were the three that were pulled.
Okay. Brings us to council comments, Connie.
Just quickly, I know all the items that we talked about tonight are important, but then I look across the room and I see the black band on the law enforcement badges, and I pulled in the parking lot tonight, and there were three of our officers standing in the parking lot, and it just, I have so much sympathy for our first responders and law enforcement, and I'm talking about obviously the deaths of our Roseville officers, and I just want you to know that how much we appreciate you, and I know I'm not speaking just for myself, so I'm sorry.
No comment.
Jeff?
Mark? No comments.
I just wanted to say, I'm really thankful for our staff and what they're, I was in today and I couldn't get a word in edgewise. They were just running. There's so much going on, right? And 99% of it is good. And it's just the tip of the iceberg of what's going to happen this summer. So I appreciate your efforts and appreciate the good work that you do. And let me know that it's not unnoticed. City Administrator.
Just a reminder, the Chamber's Eggs and Issues breakfast is Friday, March 1st. A little bit over a week from now. Do have those that have asked us to register. If you do have any interest, please let Kelly or I know by Wednesday or Thursday of this week.